Hi everyone, this is Chapter 7, Problem Solve 1. It is the last query of the assignment, and it's the query high sales volume by type. And we're going to do this one a little bit different. We're going to use SQL to build this. So I'm going to read through this, and then we'll talk about how to create it. So it says create a query using SQL based on so we've got table transaction and table product. So those are the froms. So do you remember the lecture that I talked about the statements that you need for SQL? So the two required statements are the select line, where you list the fields, and the from, where you list the tables, okay? And then how, if you have multiple tables, how you join those tables is inner join or outer join, and then what field is the connector, right? And so that is the primary foreign key from the one-to-many table. So we're going to walk through that. So this query using SQL will calculate total sales volume for each product type, use an inner join clause to connect the two tables, use the as clause to rename the calculated field that totals the quantity field as high sales volume. You guys have done all of this stuff. You've just done it in the grid. And so now we're going to take a look at how we can do that using structured query language. We're going to group the results by product type, use the having clause to ensure that only products with a quarter sales volume of at least 200 are returned, use the order by clause to sort. Okay, so there is a whole lot in there. Okay, so we're going to start off by creating a query in design view, but we're going to close that show table and switch over to SQL. Notice that there's two things that show up on your window. One is the word select, and the other is a semicolon. I'm going to pause here and see if I can zoom my window up a bit. Hold on. Okay, so I changed my size, my resolution of my monitor, and it's good, except now, you know, we can't see both things on here because my monitor's not really, it's meant to be bigger. So let's see what I can do here. Okay. Okay, so select and semicolon. So the semicolon ends the SQL statement. So that's how Access or any language knows you're done with the statement. So if we click here on select, we need to produce a list of what fields we need. So I'm going to start off with table products. That's my table dot product type. Oh wait, I'm in the wrong query. Hold on. Let me pause. Sorry. Okay, so we're going to select from the table products dot product type. So that's like me taking product type from the product table on my and bringing it down into the grid. Then the next thing that I'm going to do is a calculation of the sum of quantity. So the way I do that is sum, parentheses, and then the table that I'm pulling the field from, table transactions dot quantity. And then I'm going to use the as statement to rename it to sales volume. Okay, so this line is picking product type from the table products. This one is taking quantity and putting it down on the grid, and then putting the total row to get the aggregate and summing it. So right here, sum. As is the rename. So if we were down in the grid, left of the colon, we would have high sales volume. Okay. Now that's the fields that we need. And the next thing we do is from what table? Well, table products. And we're going to do an inner join, which is the default, right? Inner join with table transactions. So if we were thinking about the image of our query, the two tables at the top of our grid would be products and transactions. We're joining it just in a normal way, so that's the inner join. The next thing we have to do is define what is the field that connects the two tables together. So that would be your primary key and your foreign key. So you would always begin that with the table dot field equals, and then the next table, transactions dot product ID. No, hold on, I'm off the screen here. So this part here is just pointing to the two fields that, if we were looking at the tables, would have the lines attached. And this is the one that already has a relationship, right? So a one-to-many, where you have the parent table is the one, the child table is the many, the primary key in the one table, and the foreign key in the many table. That's all we're doing, is typing that out. Then we're going to say group by table products dot product type. So all that is doing is sorting. So if I had the grid up and the sort row, under product type, I would do ascending. If you leave off ASC or DESC, then it would assume it to be ascending order. Having the sum of table transactions dot quantity greater than or equal to 200. Let me do this and then we'll talk about it. And then we're going to order by the sum of table transactions dot quantity, descending order. And that's the end of the query. Okay, so this having clause is something that in the newest version of Access you can actually do this, but in prior you had to use SQL to do this. So this is like putting a criteria on a query, but the criteria is looking at the answer of calculation, an aggregate calculation. So the having isn't saying quantity more than 200. It's saying the sum of quantity, or if any of the product types total quantities is greater or equal to 200, then you want to display it. So I'm going to run it. I got something. So I just wanted to validate there is no records for that. So, which is a terrible, terrible, terrible query to give you to have no results. So there are no products that have that high sales volume. So if I go to design view, let's look at what we did. So I'm going to switch my monitor size back. So let's take a look at what we actually built with that SQL. So look, product type from table products, and then here's the quantity that we renamed as high sales volume, right? We had the aggregate on, and we're grouping by product type, and we're summing the quantity, which is now called high sales volume. Look at where our line is. This is our join. Product ID from table products to product ID in transaction. And then look down here at the criteria. Greater than or equal to 20. I'm going to get rid of that for a second and run it. Okay, so we do have some with that, but look, none of these aggregate values are greater or equal to 200. So if I come back here and I put greater or equal to 200 and I run it, I'm going to get nothing because it's not an individual line, it's the aggregate. Okay, so we're going to save this one as qry high sales volume by type. And I just wanted to tell you, like, if this SQL is not clicking with you, it really is just an introduction to it. There are you know, if you were going to do this for real, you would be taking 2-3 classes just on SQL, okay? It is something that is complex, and so I really just wanted to introduce you to that and get you to understand that what you're doing here in this nice little interface is really producing the underlying code. Okay. All right, that's it for this movie, and that's it for this Golf Pro Shop, the Problem Solve 1 for Chapter 7. Thank you.